Hello everyone! I'm back with another video about Blue Mage and limited jobs. I made an in-depth video about it 2 years ago. However, now I would love to cover the recent development with Blue Mage and limited job. So, here is a quick recap. Blue Mage is a ranged caster that mimics spells and abilities from certain monsters that they can learn from. The job was first introduced in Stormblood, which introduces a new system of jobs called limited jobs, where jobs under the category cannot participate in certain duties or current content. So far, the current content with Blue Mage is we have the level 60, 70, and 80 updates, all of which are shown in this roadmap. Noticing the trend of the roadmaps, it seems with every Blue Mage update, we are getting less and less content for it, and the same is with the spells. The only thing that is consistent is the achievement and titles for Blue Mage, and playing the older dungeons that are 10 level behind our current normal job cap. With that in mind, let's take a look at the recent minor update with Blue Mage. The Exquisite Gentlemage umbrella, which is only obtained through Criterion Savage Dungeon. That would be nice, but there is one small issue. Blue Mage cannot participate in Variant or Criterion dungeons because it is 10 levels below the content and the duty forbids limited jobs. Everyone in both JP and NA data centers believe this is a bug, which I highly doubt it is, and this was intentional. Primarily, it is because it is lumped in with the contest winners. Another thing I want to point out is that Blue Mage is promoted by the developers as casual content, and yet we are doing Eden and Omega Savage, which is more difficult than Bahamut or Alexander Savage. I also had a little bit discussion with Liam from Blue Academy regarding this matter about Blue Mage, so here's our conversation.
Throughout the entirety of the games, right, there's been a lot of interesting things happening with Blue Mage, but some games would also didn't give too much attention to Blue Mage, like Final Fantasy Explorer. Yes, you can play it normally, it's just that the amount of spells to learn is like at least from 10 to 15 spells you can learn from Explorers, because majority of the enemies are kind of like recolors and all that. But yeah, what about your experience with Blue Mage and over the series?
Yeah, so like overall, it's kind of always appealed to me just because I like wacky things in like pretty much any game. Like in any MMO, I always end up playing like non-meta stuff if it like works just because it's fun. So I always kind of liked Blue Mage in like the main series. So the oldest Final Fantasy I've played is 6, and there's like Strago in there. He's Lore Master is his actual thing, but he's a Blue Mage.
Yeah, he is.
But he's sort of like to me like the prime example of what Blue Mage looks like in the games, where it's like early on, a lot of the spells are just like super busted, like really overpowered. And if you put in the work to learn the spells, they're really strong. But then they kind of aren't really as strong at max level. They're really good for support, but they're not like as strong as everyone else. Final Fantasy VII was actually the first one that I ever played. And that one has the enemy skill materia. So there's no like classes or jobs in 7, but there's like different materia, right? And like enemy skill materia kind of is the Blue Mage equivalent there, and there were some massively overpowered things like I think it's called Big Guard in that one, where you get like haste, shell, and protect all at the same time, and that's just like you always, once you have that, you use it for the entire game. And you know, there's no Blue Mage there, but it's always there are still some spells where you always want to have it on hand, and that's pretty cool.
So with all of this in mind, and the news of a second limited job, what does the future hold for both Blue Mage and the second limited job? As of right now, it feels Blue Mage is currently being neglected by the developers as they are managing their resources on more important projects, such as newer jobs, content, dungeons, and ultimates. With the current minor update to Blue Mage weapon, this feels like the Blue Mage content resource has been mismanaged poorly and a slap to the face to those that have played Blue Mage for a long time. They are now in the process of making a second limited job, which is bound to be the same as Blue Mage. Looking at the roadmap, they will only be updated once in a while, and over time, less and less things will be added to it, and eventually, it will be barely updated with only a few new actions and content. With its unique point being able to play old content in a unique way, sadly, that unique point is basically these limited jobs are playing as 2.0 jobs before the 4.0 update, which is not unique, but rather the old version of how jobs used to play before Stormblood. I am going to be devil's advocate and ask this question. What makes you think it will be the same? Yoshi P and team need to come up with a lot of new ideas which are fresh to help revitalize people's interest. From a games designer's point of view, them ignoring can only mean they are brainstorming ways to make it better, but they need to do something to keep players interested, which is difficult, especially when they are stretched thin. Here is the thing. Their mentality is to tell people to take a break and come back at a later date. Looking at the recent trend, no one wants to do that, and players would rather treat Final Fantasy XIV as their second life they can enjoy and play with friends constantly, as they also have a roleplay community. For new ideas, it can only do so much before people will get burned out from it and seek new content. New ideas are not what we need. What we need is content that can be entertaining for a very long time. Replaying the same thing with different kinds of things is still the same. So rather they need to focus on making content that is engaging, like Ozja and Eureka. To this day, everyone is still playing it because they can help their friends in whatever progression. It's the best place for leveling jobs that haven't reached the cap, and people can progress their relic weapons for glamour. Another thing is that people can easily earn money with it. For example, with Casey's earring going for 20 million gil.